Let's take a look at basic emotions in the workplace. First, we need to discuss three terms that are closely intertwined: affect, emotions, and mood. Affect is a generic term that covers a broad range of feelings, including both emotions and moods. Emotions are intense, discrete, and short lived feeling experiences that are often caused by a specific event. Moods are longer lived and less intense feelings than emotions and often arise without a specific event acting as a stimulus. Affect, emotions, and moods are separate in theory. In practice, the distinction isn't always defined. Psychologists have tried to identify basic emotions by studying how we express them. Cultures often have norms that govern emotional expression, so the way we recognize an emotion isn't always the same as we show it. Still, many researchers agree on six universal emotions: anger, fear, sadness, happiness, disgust, and surprise. We sometimes mistake happiness for surprise, but rarely do we confuse happiness and disgust. It's true that a smile is not always an emotional expression. Smiles are used as social currency in most organizations to create a positive atmosphere, and a smile usually evokes an unconscious, reflective return smile. However, anyone who's ever smiled at an angry manager knows that this doesn't always work. Research on the boss effect suggests that the amount of power and status a person feels over another person dictates who will smile. Subordinates generally smile more often than their bosses smile back at them. This may happen in part because workers are increasingly expected to show expressions of happiness with their job. While an angry manager may not smile back, a happy manager might not either. According to the boss effect research, the relationship of what we show on our face and how we feel is a very loose one. The science of smiling is an area of current research, but managers and employees may benefit from being more aware of these tendencies. Comprehensive displays of positive emotion may be more helpful in building good business relationships. We may tend to think our internal emotions are innate. Our experiences of emotions are closely tied to our interpretations of events. Moral emotions have implications because of our instant judgment of the situation that evokes them. Examples of moral emotions include sympathy for the suffering of others, guilt about our own immoral behavior, anger about injustice done to others, and contempt for those who behave unethically. Another example is the disdain we feel about violation of moral norms, called moral disgust. Moral disgust is unique from other forms of disgust. Research indicates that our responses to moral emotions differ from our responses to others. When we feel moral anger, for instance, we may be more likely to confront the situation that causes it than when we just feel angry. Moral emotions are developed during childhood as children learn moral norms and standards, so moral emotions depend on the situation and normative context more than some other emotions. Emotions can be fleeting, but moods can endure, and for quite a while. We'll classify emotions into two categories: positive and negative. Positive emotions, such as joy and gratitude, express a favorable evaluation or feeling. Negative emotions, such as anger or guilt, express the opposite. Keep in mind that emotions can't be neutral. Being neutral is being non emotional. When we group emotions into positive and negative categories, they become mood states because we're now looking at them more generally instead of isolating one particular emotion. Excited is a pure marker of high positive effect, while boredom is a pure marker of low positive effect. Nervous is a pure marker of high negative effect. Relaxed is a pure marker of low negative effect. Finally, some emotions, such as contentment and sadness, are in between. You'll notice this does not include all emotions, such as surprise, don't fit well because they're not as clearly positive or negative. So we can think of positive affect as a mood dimension consisting of positive emotions such as excitement, enthusiasm, and elation at the high end, high positive affect. Negative affect is a mood dimension consisting of nervousness, stress, and anxiety at the high end, high negative affect. Some people, we might call them emotional or intense, may experience quite a bit of high positive and high negative effect in a short period of time. Others experience little of either or much more predominantly one than the other. We all experience moods and emotions differently. For most people, positive moods are somewhat more common than negative moods. Indeed, research finds a positivity offset, meaning when nothing in particular is going on, most individuals experience a mildly positive mood. Another research finding is that negative emotions lead to negative moods. Perhaps this happens because people think about events that created strong negative emotions 5 times as long as events that created strong positive ones. People in most cultures appear to experience certain positive and negative emotions, and people interpret them in much the same way worldwide. However, an individual's experience of emotions appears to be culturally shaped. Some cultures value certain emotions more than others, which leads individuals to change their perspective on experiencing these emotions. Research has also suggested that negative affect can have benefits. It often allows people to accept present circumstances and cope, reducing the negative effects on physical and psychological health and decision making. Negative effect may also allow managers to think more critically and fairly. In some ways, emotions are a mystery. What function do they serve? Organizational behavior researchers have been finding that emotions can be critical to an effectively functioning workplace. Individuals who tend to experience positive affect consistently as part of their personalities tend to have positive job attitudes, experience good social integration, and engage in more task and citizenship performance. Our emotions actually make our thinking more rational. Because our emotions provide important information about how we understand the world around us, they help guide our behavior. By studying brain injuries, researchers discovered an important link between emotions and rational thinking. They learned that our emotions provide us valuable information that helps our thinking process. Numerous studies suggest that moral judgments are largely based on feelings rather than on cognition, even though we tend to see our moral boundaries as logical and reasonable, not as emotional. To some degree, our beliefs are shaped by the groups we belong to, which influence our perception of ethics. We tend to judge and punish out-group members more harshly for moral transgressions than in-group members. We can identify the sources of emotions and moods. We're better able to predict behavior and manage accordingly. Here are some of the primary influences of moods and emotions. Moods and emotions have a personality trait component, meaning that some people have built-in tendencies to experience certain moods and emotions more frequently than others. Effectively intense people experience both positive and negative emotions more deeply. When they're sad, they're really sad, and when they're happy, they're really happy. Moods vary by time of day. However, research suggests most of us follow the same pattern. Levels of positive affect tend to peak in the late morning, 10 a.m. to noon, and then remain at that level until early evening around 7 p.m. Are people in their best moods on the weekends? In most cultures, they are. For example, US adults tend to experience their highest positive effect on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, and their lowest on Monday. Many people believe that their mood is tied to the weather. However, a large and detailed body of evidence suggests weather has little effect on mood, at least for most people. As you might imagine, stressful events at work negatively affect moods. A review of nearly 100 studies on 25,000 employees suggests that the effects of chronic stress also build over time. For most people, social activities increase a positive mood and have little effect on a negative mood. Sleep quality affects moods and decision making, and increased fatigue puts workers at risk for disease, injury, and depression. You often hear that people should exercise to improve their mood. Research consistently shows that exercise enhances people's positive mood. While not terribly strong overall, the effects are strongest for those who are depressed. Every employee expends physical and mental labor by putting body and mind, respectively, into their job. But jobs also require emotional labor, an employee's expression of organizationally desired emotions. Emotional labor is a key component of effective job performance. Your managers expect you to be courteous, not hostile. Your interactions with coworkers must be positive. The way we experience an emotion is obviously not always the same way that we show it. To analyze emotional behavior, we divide emotions into felt or displayed emotions. Felt emotions are our actual emotions. In contrast, displayed emotions are those that the organization requires workers to show and considers appropriate in a given job. They're not innate, they're learned, and they may or may not coincide with felt emotions. Effective managers have learned to look serious when they give an employee a negative performance evaluation, and to look calm when they're berated by their bosses, because the organization expects these displays. Employees under a very high or very low display rules do not perform as well in sales situations as employees who have moderate display rules and a high degree of discretion in their roles. Displaying fake emotions requires us to suppress real ones. Surface acting is hiding feelings and emotional expressions in response to display rules. A worker who smiles at a customer even when he doesn't feel like it is surface acting. Deep acting is trying to modify our true feelings based on display rules. Surface acting deals with display emotions, and deep acting deals with felt emotions. Displaying emotions we don't really feel can be exhausting. Surface acting is associated with increased stress and decreased job satisfaction. The disparity between employees having to project one emotion while feeling another is called emotional dissonance. Bottled up feelings of frustration, anger, and resentment can lead to emotional exhaustion. Long term emotional dissonance is a predictor for burnout, declines in performance, and low satisfaction. Effective events theory proposes that employees react emotionally to things that happen to them at work. Say you just found out that your company is downsizing. You might experience a variety of negative emotions, causing you to worry that you'll lose your job. Needless to say, your job satisfaction will also be down. Prior research supports the notion that the extent to which one's personality is negative or positive is related to emotional reactions when experiencing workplace events. However, we experience some events more often than others. AET offers two important messages. First, emotions provide valuable insights into how workplace events influence employee performance and satisfaction. Second, employees and managers shouldn't ignore emotions or the events that cause them, even when they appear to be minor, because they accumulate. Emotional intelligence helps us to understand the impact of emotions on our performance. Emotional intelligence, EI, is the ability to detect and to manage emotional cues and information. Emotional intelligence is a person's ability to perceive emotions in the self and others, understand the meaning of those emotions, and regulate his or her own emotions accordingly. People who know their own emotions and are good at reading emotional cues, for instance, knowing why they're angry and how they express themselves without violating norms, are most likely to be effective. Several studies suggest that EI plays an important role in job performance, although the survey items are often strikingly similar to other items on personality, intelligence, and self-perception tests. Although the field is progressing on its understanding of EI, many questions have not been answered. Part of the reason EI only has a modest correlation with job effectiveness is that it's mostly measured with self-report inventories. All questions aside, EI is wildly popular among consulting firms and in the popular press, and it's accumulated some support in the research literature. Love it or hate it, one thing's for sure, EI is here to stay. Have you ever tried to cheer yourself up when you're feeling down, or calm yourself when you're feeling angry? If so, you've engaged in emotional regulation. The central idea behind emotion regulation is to identify and modify the emotions that you feel. Research suggests that emotion management ability is a strong predictor of task performance for some jobs and for organizational citizenship behavior. As you might suspect, not everyone is equally good at regulating emotions. Individuals who are higher in the personality trait of neuroticism have more trouble doing so and often find behind their moods are beyond their ability to control. Individuals who have lower levels of self-esteem are also less likely to try to improve their sad moods, perhaps because they're less likely than others to feel that they deserve to be in a good mood. The workplace environment influences an individual's tendency to employ emotion regulation. In general, diversity in work groups increases the likelihood that you'll regulate your emotions. One technique of emotion regulation is emotion suppression, or suppressing initial emotional responses to situations. This response seems to facilitate practical thinking in the short term. Mindfulness has started to become popular in organizations. Our understanding of emotions and moods can affect many aspects of organizational behavior. One implication from the evidence on EI is that employers should consider it a factor in hiring, especially for jobs that demand a high degree of social interaction. In fact, more employers are starting to use EI measures to hire people. Positive emotions and moods seem to help people make sound decisions. Positive emotions also enhance problem solving skills, so positive people find better solutions. One goal of leadership is to maximize employee productivity through creativity. Research suggests that people in good moods tend to be more creative and produce better ideas. Leaders who focus on inspirational goals generate greater optimism, cooperation, and enthusiasm in employees, leading to more positive social interactions with coworkers and customers. Workers' emotional states influence the level of customer service they give, which in turn influences level of repeat business and customer satisfaction. Anyone who spent much time in an organization realizes people can behave in ways that violate established norms and threaten the organization, its members, or both. These actions are called counterproductive work behaviors, CWBs. People who feel negative emotions are more likely than others to engage in deviant behavior at work. Selecting positive team members can contribute towards a positive team environment because positive moods transmit from team member to team member. It makes sense then to choose team members predisposed to positive moods.